Today, on a brand new episode of Popcorn Feed, we'll be doing a recap of the American Gods Season 1 finale, and we'll be looking ahead and talking about Season 2. Welcome back to our show, Popcorn Feed. I'm your host, Steve.
I'm your other host, Brian, and yes, like Steve said, we are going to talk all about American Gods Season 1, and of course, we're super excited for Season 2 of American Gods.
That's right.
We got to start off this episode with a little turn back on time. We're going to talk about Season 1. We're going to just do a quick recap for our audience today, so that way you get a general idea of what American Gods is about. So, Steve, what is American Gods about?
Well, essentially, it's the story of this ex-convict named Shadow Moon who gets released from prison, and he meets this mysterious character named Mr. Wednesday. And he starts working for him as his bodyguard, And it seems like, like an average job. Nothing too...
Employer-employee relationship.
Nothing too crazy, But then crazy stuff ensues, and Shadow finds himself in this crazy world that he doesn't know whether or not to believe.
Yeah.
There's some pretty crazy stuff going on in this world.
Lots of different mythical and mystical elements being brought into the story.
Precisely.
So the story was contrived from the mastermind of author Neil Gaiman. And Neil's been working on several different series. He also did, for Vertigo and DC, he did the Sandman series as well, which I'm a huge fan of, and I highly recommend it as a graphic novel here. And on top of that, he's done so many different horror novels in his life. And this is just one of those novels that has finally been adapted into what we have now in the American Gods TV series.
That's right. Focusing on the finale specifically and going into detail about what took place and what led us to Season 2.
Right. All right.
We've got Mr. Wednesday and we've got Shadow, and they decide to pay the goddess Easter a visit, and this is after Wednesday becomes convinced that he needs to find himself a queen. Same time, Laura Moon and Matt Sweeney, they track down Shadow and Wednesday to Easter's estate in Kentucky. And it's at this party that Laura is trying to get Easter's help to become resurrected.
Right.
And at this point, she informs Laura that she can't resurrect her because she was killed by a god. And now, of course, this puts Matt Sweeney in a position where he has to admit Wednesday's role in Laura's death and Shadow's imprisonment.
Right.
So a lot of stuff is coming to light in this episode.
It really does. It comes full circle from everything that had happened in previous episodes. Where we're at the garden party there's this climactic scene towards the end where our foes catch up with Mr. Wednesday, with Odin. And Steve, these foes are actually the new gods that have been created because of society and because of all the ill wills of the world, basically, right? And of course, we get this climactic battle scene between them and Odin, where he unleashes his power and confesses that he is Odin.
Exactly.
He is the god Odin.
Yeah, that's right. We have Mr. World, Media, and Technical Boy all show up to threaten Wednesday, and his response is to strike down their men with a lightning bolt, and he said declare himself to be Odin. And at this point, he convinces Easter to also use her powers as well, and she plunges America into a drought.
And then we kind of just the show kind of leaves us on a cliffhanger here, where we're wondering what the next move is going to be. So I feel like the first season of this series was the build-up to the war, and Season 2 is now the war. And this brings us to our next point in our episode, which is, of course, American Gods Season 2. A couple trailers dropped, which made us really excited here at Popcorn Feed. But what was really, really interesting about this was the fact that Neil Gaiman and Jesse Alexander were the writers on the first episode, and we do know that from previous news and information that Gaiman was stepping back from the show. So this is a nice change of pace to see him writing the opening episode entitled House on the Rock.
Okay, nice.
So this basically episode picks up exactly where we left off in Season 1, right, Steve?
Yes, exactly. So Season 2 is a continuation. Now the battle between old gods and new gods is continuing to escalate.
Right.
And the season begins just a few short hours after Mr. Wednesday's declaration of war against the new gods and the showdown that followed at Easter's party.
This is a really exciting moment in the story because all the buildup from Season 1 all the allies that Wednesday and Shadow had obtained to back them in the end, I feel like they're finally all going to come forward and defend their honor and their titles as gods, which is really cool.
Right. And that is still seen in Season 2. We know that Mr. Wednesday, accompanied by Shadow, is still in his quest to rally together more of the old gods and to convince them that war is necessary against the new gods.
Old gods, new gods, there's so many gods, you know? This seems to be intense, man.
How do you keep track of all these new gods and old gods?
Now, we have Mr. Wednesday, of course, who is Odin.
That's right.
And he is one of our main characters in this story. As we said, Shadow Moon works for him as his bodyguard. And basically, Odin is our leader.
He's the leader of the new gods.
Of
the old gods.
Right.
He's rallying together the old gods.
Right.
And he's played wonderfully by Ian McShane.
He
gives a hell of a performance.
He does. That guy was awesome in Deadwood. Another phenomenal series that he did. And he's going to be in the new Hellboy movie as well.
Yeah, that's right.
I also have his bodyguard, Shadow Moon, which is played by
Ricky Whittle.
Ricky Whittle.
Yep.
And I really like this guy. This guy is a great actor.
He does a good job.
He's really good. He really drew me into his character from season 1. We got to talk about Mad Sweeney because this guy
Pablo Schreiber?
Schreiber.
Yeah.
He plays this role phenomenally, man. He is great in everything I've seen him in the last couple of years. He's really made a name for himself in Hollywood.
Yeah, he's been really breaking out onto the scene. But of course, he's a leprechaun, and he's not your stereotypical leprechaun because he's tall. And one of the first things that Shadow says to him is, aren't leprechauns supposed to be short?
Yeah.
That's right. And he's also working for Wednesday, too. So he's kind of in a similar position as Shadow is. And throughout the course of Season 1, we learn just exactly what he was doing to help Wednesday get Shadow where he wanted him to be. He did have a role in Laura's death.
About some of the new gods that have shown up on this scene.
Well, of course, we can't talk about the new gods without talking about Mr. World.
Oh,
played by Crispin Glover.
He's Marty McFly's dad.
Right.
He's George McFly.
He is the leader of the new gods, and he's also the new god of globalization. And then, of course, we have Technical Boy, one of the new gods as well, and he's the new god of technology.
Right.
And Media is one of the other new gods. In the first season, she was played by Gillian Anderson.
Gillian Anderson, which we are huge X-Files fans, so that was a really, really cool casting choice.
And it's unfortunate that she's not coming back for the second season.
I know.
But because of that, they've actually created a new character called New Media.
Oh, okay. That should be good.
Instead of just replacing her with a different actress, they're just coming up with a brand new character altogether.
The idea that things are changing in the story. And what I noticed was when I was looking up some information about this show, about the new season, was with change comes sacrifice. And this is a big question on my mind, Steve. Who is going to be the sacrifice in this whole new chapter in this war? Who are we going to lose? Old gods? New gods? Who's going to take over? But there's one other piece of business we got to go over before we end our episode, and that is our 4K and Blu-ray recommendation.
That's right, and this month we're recommending Season 1 of American Gods.
On Season 1, we're going to leave a link below, and we definitely think this is a great opportunity for our viewers to really enjoy this story and really, really get involved before Season 2 starts. And Season 2 begins on March 10th. That's all we have for today's episode of Popcorn Feed. We're really excited for Season 2 of American Gods, so comment below and let us know if you're going to watch Season 2 of American Gods. And of course, if you want to keep up on all of our content and all the news that we have here at My Comic Universe, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, Steve, where can they find us?
You guys can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
That sounds good to me. I'm your host here at Popcorn Feed. I'm Brian.
I'm Steve.
We'll see you guys next time.